gotta find a new angle. We're doing the review on the floor. The camera overheated last time because I put it on top of the desktop, which was not a good idea. But it's fitting to be on the floor because this game was nearly the end. I almost died here. This was very close to cutting it all short, but we'll get to it. I'm not going to go over the naming thing again. Doki Doki Panic, yada yada yada. This is not a Final Fantasy game, it's Saga 2. Get over it. Although I should say this game was remade for the DS in 3D, just like Final Fantasy 3, but it was only in Japan, and of course it was called Saga 2 again. Hiho Denetsu or something, and yeah, I'm not playing that one. I'm playing the Game Boy. The gameplay in this one is pretty different from that in the first Final Fantasy Legend. There's no more permadeath. There is the humans and mutants both grow similarly. You no longer buy potions to increase stats. In fact, they gain stats similarly to Final Fantasy 2. But it is less annoying in this because, you know, it's a Game Boy game, there's less stats to worry about. It really is just strength and agility, depending on the weapon you use, and mana, I guess. Those are the 3 different stats you'll increase, so whatever weapon you use, there's a chance you'll increase that stat. The thing is, it could be any weapon. There's a bunch of different types of swords, and there's a bunch of different types of guns and whips and spears, whatever. There's no way to know which stat will increase with which weapon, so I had to constantly consult a little chart. I had a million different tabs on my phone for this game on which weapon I should use. But I made a pretty big mistake, and that was not caring very much about my agility stat. I could complain about this game as much as I want, but I kind of ignored agility. I wanted strength, and for my mutant, I wanted mana. I didn't focus on agility for anyone. And that didn't work out very well. We'll get to that. I want to say first, there's some cool things they did to change up the gameplay. No more permadeath. So that's cool. In fact, when you die, you're revived at the end of the battle with 1 HP. So any party member who dies, you could just heal them back up. That's cool. There's no life spell, there's no revive. If you die in battle, I'm pretty sure there's no way to get you back until the battle's over, but it's a good balance. I think one disadvantage to that is pretty major. The encounter rate in this game is awful. This was infuriating. You could take one step after a battle and get into another battle with another 9 enemies you have to kill. Battles can be kind of long too. Most of this game is just encounter, 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 encounter. Oh my god, it's like the worst aspect of a JRPG when the encounter rate is bad, and there's nothing you can do, you just have to move. Although I should mention, in the collection of Saga where I played this, the one quality of life improvement they added was speeding up the game. It's not an auto battle thing, it's just straight up overclocking the game. I don't know if that's the right word, but everything speeds up. So you'll see an NPC and they'll just be dashing around like crazy because the whole game's sped up. It's not just one thing. It also means you can move around faster in the overworld, so it's nice. It's very nice. I can't imagine not having that. Oh my god. This game took 17 hours. Too much for a Game Boy game, and that's gonna be so much longer without the speed up thing. I guess it's not an accurate number though, because the game itself does not count your hours. It does count how many saves you do, but naturally, once that goes past 99, it loops back to 0, so it doesn't actually count your saves. And this is a game where you're gonna save a million times. If you don't save after everything that happens, you're gonna regret it later. The experience was pretty much battle save, battle save, battle save, and occasionally some cool story stuff. I will say, the story is better in this than Final Fantasy 3. I think the Game Boy games are just maybe there's less pressure, so they just kind of do something weird. It opens with your dad waking you up and he goes son, I got no time to explain. take this magi, they're special little pieces of power, and you can use them, and if anybody gets all of them, they'll become a god, and we can't let that happen. Alright, bye. He jumps out the window. And then your character goes like, why is my dad always jumping out the window? And at that point, I was like, okay, this game already has more charm and more interest than the game I just played. The big trilogy ender I just played. So Magi is another cool mechanic. They work kind of like the thing for Final Fantasy VII. The orbs that you put in the weapon to increase your... What are they called? So the goal is like at first to find your dad. Where did dad go? This is weird. I gotta go find him. And you go to town and a bunch of your friends come up to you and say, we'll help you. And that's when you choose your different classes. And that's it. You choose it one time. There's no guild because there's no permadeath. So you don't switch out anybody anymore. It's one team all the way to the end. And there's a new class, the robot. The way they work is whatever you equip to them, they just gain stats automatically. So if you have a sword that's strong, they gain a bunch of different strength points if you equip it. If you unequip it, they lose it. So it's like you're installing these items into your guy, and they can equip any amount of anything. So like you want to give him 6 gauntlets. He's got 6 gauntlets. He's using all the defense from all that, so he's like a wall shield for the rest of your characters. Like you can mix and match and change your robot to do whatever you want. He was the coolest class, I think, now. The monster returns. You can eat corpses and become a new monster. That's neat. But I think he was severely nerfed this time. Because in the other game, if you just continually ate monsters, you'd get strong because the monsters were always stronger. This one, there's like an incredibly complex, ridiculous algorithm that takes in a million different things to decide what monster you're gonna get when you eat a corpse. And you can get a garbage monster on like the last area. That's part of the reason why you gotta save all the time. You don't want to get stuck with a useless monster. I don't know why they changed it. Just, was it overpowered in the last game? It didn't feel like it. I mentioned the mutant magic in the last game, how I don't know how they learned new spells. I still don't know why. All I know is that the last spell in your slot is the only one that will change. I don't know how you're supposed to change the other 3. The guides didn't help. I should say the guides... There's no good guides for this game. That was another problem. There was one guide that just kind of said, okay, you enter the castle, and then when you get to the top, you fight the boss, and then you kill the boss, and then you leave the castle. It's like, that's not a guide. There's 5 floors to this castle. Where do I go? What enemies am I going to fight? How do I kill the boss? That's what a guide is. Everything I looked up was useless. But I really like the story. Not that it's too crazy, but the MacGuffin thing you have to find, instead of like 4 crystals or whatever, you gotta find 77 magi. Each world will have a couple magi. Just like the first game, it feels a little episodic. Each world has a new thing you have to discover and solve. You find your dad eventually. He just joins your party, and then he runs into a guy and explodes and dies. And you're just like, oh no, Dad. I already talked about how death works. If all of your party dies, they wake up in Valhalla. And you can walk up and see Odin himself. And he goes like, I'm Odin. I can revive you. All you have to do is promise me this. When you return, when you find me in real life, if you make it, you will battle me. And you just say, okay. And you get revived and placed right back in the battle you were just in. So again, there's a lot to complain about, but it lets you retry any battle infinitely. So, hard to complain too much. But eventually I entered a new world and it was all cloudy and I got to a castle. I was like, uh-oh. I got to the top. There's Odin, and he's like, you promised. And we're like, I guess we did. And then we fight, and we kill Odin. And he's like, oh, we killed a god. Wow, we're pretty strong. We almost have all the magi. You have 76 magi. And then another god, Apollo, comes up, and he goes like, I have 1 magi. I will fight you, and the winner will keep all of them and become the god. I died in that battle. and I didn't get to try the battle again. I went back to my last save because Odin was dead and he could no longer revive us. It was a funny story thing until it completely robbed you of a mechanic that was keeping you going. So that sucked. But you beat Apollo, and he kind of goes like, yeah, I'm going to steal your magi anyway. So he takes all 77 and runs away, and you're like, alright, great. And then Dad shows up, and you're like, I thought you literally exploded. And he goes like, no. By the way, there's actually 78 magi, and you can't become the god until you get them all. What? Why? Yeah, I thought there were 77. No, we just tell everybody there's 77 so they don't know. Anyway, we gotta go to this dungeon and get all 78. Alright, we go. There's another world where you have to, like, stop people from smuggling bananas. Like, there's an illegal trade of bananas. And I thought, oh, it's a funny, like, Japan thing. Japan, they're so quirky. No, this was a censorship thing, and they were actually trading opium in the Japanese version. So that's funny. So anyway, you get to Apollo, you kill him. You discover Isis. The goddess Isis shows up and helps you. Thank God we have Isis. So you go down the path, you go through like a maze. It's horrible, it's so hard. All the enemies are painful and they don't stop. There's no revival anymore. This is kind of the point I realized I should have cared more about my agility. It's your speed stat, it's your accuracy stat. So I was missing and I was going last, taking all these hits, and I can't go back. I got to the final boss, saved, and I realized there's no way to travel back. If I die, I go to my save point, which is here. I would need to go all the way backwards through the dungeon, through all those horrible enemies. I'm out of items and stuff. I can't make that. This is the moment of truth. This is where this journey ends. I'm either going to beat the final boss, or I will be stuck here forever. I was like, this can't be it. What is this, the 5th game? I can't end on the 5th game. I don't know what to do though. The final boss, I fight him. There's like 3 forms. He's got, at the end, a super devastating attack, which always goes first because my agility's bad. The best I can do is, like, since the robot stats are so easily swapped out, I could equip him with some other stuff and get a little bit of agility and increase the strength a little. Put the robot first, take most of the hits because she's strong. Dude, my robot, Jenny, MVP, by far, no question. My human guy was wielding Excalibur, which is like the best sword in the game, and wasn't even doing much. My monster was also there. It was really the mutant and the robot going hand in hand. The final boss is like this giant mech called the Arsenal. At that point, I kind of like didn't realize what was going on in the story. Like, we killed Apollo. We got the Magi. I think he did something where the worlds were now going to fall apart. And there's this defense mechanism at the core of that last world, and you go to it and you need to blow it up for some reason. So yeah, Isis joined your party, and there's 2 arsenals actually. So you get to the final boss and you're like, oh, I have Isis on my side, it'll be fine. And then she goes like, okay, you guys get that one, I'll get the other one, bye. And she leaves your party. And the final boss you have to fight on your own. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, but they led you along there, and I was a little bit upset. I just wanted Isis to solve all my problems. So it was just endless retrying that boss over and over and over. I would go back into the previous room a little bit and maybe eat some more monsters to see if I can get a little bit of a better one. I was like hedging my bets. I was doing everything, squeezing every iota of potential betterment I can get out of my small inventory and my half-assed party. I was dishing out different equipment, retrying, getting a little farther, sometimes going a little backwards, just doing it over and over, making sure it works, and eventually, somehow, the final attack he does, the devastating attack, didn't actually do that much. I really don't know why. Because I didn't change my defense all that much. But like, it was just my human and my robot. My human... Oh no, my human died a long time ago. My mutant and my robot. My mutant was using flare, which is like crazy strong attack. My robot was using the spear of Odin that we got from that guy we killed who used to revive us but then stopped. It was the robot and the mutant, hand in hand, blows up the arsenal. The day is saved. Final Fantasy Legend 2 is dead. I guess I would say the first one's better. They have positives and negatives. Honestly, this game wasn't as annoying as Final Fantasy II, the normal one. And again, I have to acknowledge it's mostly my fault. It's not like the system is inherently awful. I think there needs to be a better way to just know which weapons can increase what. And it needs to happen more often, for God's sake. Dude, just give me levels. I'm tired of this. Ooh, let's change it up. Honestly, the mechanics in the first game were nice. I had a bunch of money and I could use it to make my guys stronger. I like it when it's objective, it's just right there. Stop making things happen with chance when they're that important. And also, give a way to go back to the last town you were at or something, you know? That's it. Was this not a clear problem at any point? Whatever, that's 2 Legend games down. I guess the first one was better. Yeah, the first one was a little better. Look, I got one constellation going here. These are the oldest games I will tackle on this show. They're not gonna get older. So, in my head, I'm like, they're only gonna get easier. They're only gonna get less outdated, less stupid. I hope so. So check it out on Nintendo Switch.